Welcome back to the International Champions Workshop. I'm always here with Ian Main, and in this episode, we are going to blow your mind about the leadership, about progressive thinking, forward thinking, and becoming that expert leader.
Every Tuesday, 12 noon, in case nobody knew about that, ICW International Championship Workshop. And today is a super special day because it's my birthday. But apart from that, we've got Leo Pareja here on the call, CEO of EXP Realty. How are you doing, Leo?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
No, that's
Leo,
great.
we are still. Go ahead, Leo. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to say, today I think is an episode I've been excited for because we're going to go into leadership, and who better talk to about leadership than, the guy that pretty much runs the company. So, Jason, over to you.
Man, Leo, what key strategies are you implementing currently? We see you doing so much with the transition from NAR and helping so many other realtors from the videos you're doing. Where are you implementing this, and how are you implementing everything?
Yeah, so I would say I got obsessed with this whole thing last year, right? Once I knew that we had a trial date, and that obviously back in October when the trial did not go as NAR and others expected, I had the feeling that this was substantially going to affect the world we live in, right? And it for process and customs and behavior, changing human behavior is not very simple. And I've lived through several shifts. The last one that I could really point to that's similar was in the financial side of it with loans, right? In 2008, 2009, TILA, CFPB, Dodd-Frank substantially affected how mortgage brokers operated and mortgage companies. And it even affected what in the lending side is called manufacturing costs. So like the cost to produce a loan became more expensive. And there was a moment where the folks that were operationally excellent made it, and the ones that weren't didn't. And so that's the parallel I look for. I think a lot of times, whether we're talking about leadership or just human psychology, Rene Rodriguez is a good friend of mine. He's the author of Amplify Your Influence. He's got this really good exercise where he'll walk off on stage in the middle of talking, and it freaks everybody out. He doesn't say anything, comes back like, I don't know, 45 seconds later, but it feels like an eternity. And then ask the crowd like what just happened, and people yell out like concern, worry, like what's wrong, right? And people even say like you were distracted, you don't care, like all kinds of things pop into your head. And I think that's what happens in a moment where you don't know what to tie it to, what parallel to think about. So I think that's what happened. Again, it was almost like two collective moments. One was in March 15th, when everybody found out about the settlement, and it lasted for about 30 days. And then everyone kind of took a very mellow summer off and forgot about it until we were about 30 days out. And I made statements that were super logical and grounded in theory and reading. And everyone's like, what's he talking about? I'm like, what are you talking about? How do you not understand what I'm talking about? Like, I've been talking about this all year. Like, we all found out the same day. I don't know why anyone's acting surprised that I changed some business processes, right? Like, we have new information, we came out with new rules and new paperwork. That's what happens when the rules change. But again, it's a reminder to me of parallels I've seen before, right? So if you don't have the information, your brain creates worst possible scenarios. And I think, I have small kids and I'm watching them grow and kind of experience life. And so it's such a good reminder. And so on the real estate side, like, you guys don't have to invent anything. Like, we have really clear parallels, whether it's the commercial real estate world or, to me, it's seller representation, right? So I tell everybody, every buyer's agent is now a listing agent. You have to have a solid presentation. You have to have solid value proposition. You have to be able to articulate the service you're willing to render for the fee you're willing to collect. And you have to ask, right? That's a listing presentation. And then again, where people get lost, including the media, because I've done a ton of media, like the gotcha question every news reporter is asking me, it's like, what's the new fee going to be? I say the new fee is going to be what the new fee is, right? Because on the listing side, we literally have all kinds of models. We have the no model, which is FSBO, which tends to be between 10 to 12% of every seller, depending on the amount of supply. If you go back over a 20-year period, the least amount of FSBOs we had was, guess what year? 08, 09, when you couldn't throw a rock and not hit a for sale sign, and you had 18 months of inventory. And the most FSBOs we've ever had is when you have, one offer in 17, or one property in 17 offers. And it's really a supply demand scenario. So I tell, like, you ask me what's changing. We now will have FSBO buyers, right? That's the easiest way to say it. DIY, unrepresented, fill in the word, but I say FSBO buyer because agents can, oh, okay, I know what that means, right? So we haven't dealt with that before. Now we legitimately have that. Today, in any market, there is a flat fee company that will do it for hundreds of dollars and stick it in the MLS and put the seller's phone number. And they've been around I've been licensed for 23 years and they've always existed. So that will happen in the buy side. And there will be menu of service companies. Ironically or not, Josh Sitzler created one and launched it last week, but we won't talk about that on this podcast. We'll focus on leadership. And then you'll have the range of percentage, whether it's a small percentage or a larger percentage based on services and white glove or not. So when I say that's agents, then it kind of calms them down because they can anchor to something they're familiar with. And your question was like, how, do you lead through this kind of stuff? That's, to me, it's like, stay calm, breathe, and then find a parallel industry if you don't find it inside of yours. Like, there's always almost like there's been 100 billion humans who've walked the earth in the 200,000 years of recorded like Homo sapien history. There's almost always a parallel. There's almost always a similar thing that we can learn from, model and move forward. So I remind people, this is my bet that 12 months from now, in summer of 2025, so depending on when you watch this and you have frame of reference, all of this confusion and messy middle, and again, August 17th, kind of until we get there, will feel as ridiculous as wiping our groceries down during COVID. Like, we'll just have it normal and no one will be like, we will have amnesia that we had confusion. Because it will be like, wait, it wasn't that bad. It was only a couple weeks and months. And like, actually, I saw an interesting thing that 50 years from now, when we're all in our 70s, like, the memory of COVID will be drastically different, right? Like, most people will kind of not remember it, but like frontline folks in hospitals, that they will have PTSD, like if they served in the military, but 99% of the population won't remember how long it was, won't remember any of the bad parts. It was like, oh, I was at home with my family a lot. We cooked a lot, right? It was, that's my guess as to what's going to happen with this. We'll arrive at a new normal. There may or may not be a couple different new ways of doing things. And we will continue serving families and buying and selling homes.
Easy as that. Go ahead, Ian.
And I wanted to ask, because when things like this like, I don't have that situation. I'm in Spain. But I understand what's going on in the US. Obviously, I'm in touch with Jason a lot and I'm plugged into a lot of the stuff through EXP. And kind of staying on this topic of leadership, so things like this pop up along the way, and as a leader, you're not forced, but it's your job to kind of take this on and handle it in the best way possible to make it easy for everyone, easy to understand for everyone, which is kind of exactly what you're doing right now. When you took this role on, and any other leadership role that you've been in a similar kind of situation, how do you feel like you have to build yourself up to be ready for these kind of things? Are you never ready for this kind of thing? Or did you get to a point somewhere along in your career where you're like, I'm now ready to become a leader that can take on situations that might pop up, which obviously we don't know about because that's in the future, but how do you come about controlling all of this? Do you ever feel like you're ready for these kind of things, or is it something you just think experience is what
I
made
think that's a wonderful question. I think experiences like this create your leadership muscle and strength. So I think anyone, and again, this is more opinion than anything else, but I think all humans are born with predispositions, or kind of like a natural inclination I wouldn't call it like a God-given talent. Like
Right.
I think we're wired to do certain things. Like I'm a big advocate of the DISC profile.
Mhm.
And I think we have predispositions, and I will say it from stages, like figure out what your God-given talents are and then lean into them. And then
Right.
again, when I say that, I'm being specific in the sense where it's like, it's not, you're born with it. I think I have a 7 and 9 year old, and I can see my son has the ability to be an entrepreneur, like
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
super persuasive, actually doesn't like school. Like he's got all the tellings. And then my daughter is type A and wants to be a doctor and is really good at math and science. So, but I believe either one could become a doctor and either one could become an entrepreneur if they so choose to lean into that and focus on
Right.
it. And I think that's how leadership is, right? Like, I was actually really shy as a kid, and technically, like, I probably wouldn't have fallen into that bucket. I became of age as a business person through the financial crisis, which
Right.
was deeply emotionally traumatizing to a lot of us, like, hardship. I did foreclosures. I had to see things and witness things that I probably don't want to ever again. Um, and I think those moments kind of create who you become. And I think there are moments where you choose to lead when you've never led before, and it could be as young as being the team captain in high school,
Right.
in elementary school, middle
Exactly.
school, college,
Yeah.
all the way to like leading through different parts of everyone's journey. But I would equate this example that again is unique to my life experience, but it's being a parent, right?
Yeah.
And your first child, I don't know if you've had one,
Mhm.
no one's prepared for that, right? Like they just hand you a human, you're like, all right, go home, keep this thing alive, and you're like, what up, God, sir?
Right.
Where's the adult supervision here, right? And if you have a second or a third, it's like they have 103 fever. You're like, that's no good. Give them a little bit of Tylenol. Let's put some ice on them, and their breathing's fine. We're good. But like my
Yep.
first one is like I was at the ER, right?
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that's almost the best analogy I can give to humans, right? Like I would argue that no one's ready for anything until they do it, right? Like we all are actually imposters until the moment we take that challenge on. And again, I'm super top of mind parenting. I just had 3 days with them at the house. Like think about like what causes anxiety in a 2 year old. It's like the toy breaks or they don't get the channel they want, and it's the end of the world.
Right.
And then fast forward to your probably most embarrassing or traumatic moment in high school, right? And then you fast forward to like, you know, your first couple of years in business. Like my worst day ever has gotten substantially order of magnitude more complicated as I've gone through
Right.
my business and leadership journey, but so is my best day ever,
Exactly.
right?
I love it.
And I think it's almost like, I think, I've read a lot about that, like the calmest, most honest people are, 70, 80, 90 years old. Because, they've come to the conclusion, like nothing really matters that much,
That's it.
right? Something like 99% of anything we ever worry about has no material impact on the course of our life, right? I love the quote, but did you die? Right? Like
Right.
if I didn't die, my parents, I'm super grateful, are still both with me. They're actually looking for properties today in Miami to be near the grandkids. Like my wife is safe. My brother and sister-in-law and all like my immediate family are safe. My kids have food and shelter. It's like, really? Like nothing is that big of a deal.
That's it.
And again, maybe that's my life experience. I grew up overseas. I saw real abject poverty. I didn't experience it, but I saw it firsthand. Like, the poor in Europe and in North America have a house and a car and television, right? They're not in a cardboard box off of a shanty town,
Yeah.
right? There's no life insecurity and food insecurity like there are in the vast majority of the world where like, is there enough food to eat today? So, and maybe that's a coping mechanism where I'll literally go there mentally if I'm having a rough day about a moment in leadership.
Yeah.
It's not that serious. It's like we got new words and contracts to use. Like, really?
Yeah. That's it. I think that was the perfect answer to that question. Wow.
That was great. Yeah. And so, I mean, for you, Leo, from what I gather with that too, it's you're very grateful for what you have and where
Really,
you're at. Is that something you practice every day, even with having children and teaching
every
them?
single day. And
Yeah.
my wife and I talk about this a lot. Like, I feel like I've always practiced gratitude. And again, I prescribe to like Warren Buffett's theory of the lottery womb, right? Like
Mhm.
my life is blessed because I was born into amazing human beings who loved me and nurtured me and literally told me I could do anything I put my mind to. Like, you know, and even if the programming is all made up, like I'm really grateful for the programming I got. My parents, my mom's a PhD in psychology, my dad's a PhD in communication. So like I was bred to run my mouth like I do now.
Right.
But at the same time, like I've also done a ton of personal growth and I choose who's around me and what I input and choose as my reality on a daily basis. Um, but I've almost noticed consciously like my level of gratitude keeps going up and I think I think it's and again young kids, this is the season of life I'm in. it's it changed my perspective. It's like as long as they're healthy, they're good. I'm super like again, like God forbid our entire European Eastern or Western way of world collapsed and we had to immigrate somewhere and I had to wash dishes. I don't care if my wife and kids are safe. It's so irrelevant.
Right.
Beautiful. Nice,
That's it.
nice. Well said, my man. And for like for agents, as they try to transition into maybe it's being more grateful, maybe it's increasing their communication skills. What what can you give other agents out there that want to thrive and to want to overcome challenges, but are maybe having mental challenges or just can't get over that? What would you
Yeah, no,
recommend for them
so,
watching?
so, so first of all, we live in the most amazing moment in history of how much free information exists on anything, right? Like when we were logging on and I was telling you I was troubleshooting a big monitor I bought, like I fully understand that I'm probably mildly to severely dyslexic and I was just never diagnosed because like in the 80s, it was like he reads slow and we moved on.
Right.
Right.
But I figured that out early on in the sense that like my written, if you've ever texted me, I probably sound like a sixth grader. Um, but orally, I sound much better. And I think it was a overcompensation for that
Right.
lack thereof. Um, and so about, I don't know, middle school, high school, I realized I can't read fast at all. And when I do read, I don't comprehend. Like I just get bored, my brain wanders off. So the first thing I would do if you're going on that journey is figure out how you learn. That would be really step one. Because even telling someone go read, and if they can't comprehend, like it happens to me, but guess what? I can listen to Audible at 2 or 3x. Like my ability to retain and comprehend is an order of magnitude faster than most people. And it was purely like an adaptation, right? So like I did good in high school and college, but I'd sit in the front row. I wouldn't take a single note because I couldn't read my handwriting anyway when I got home,
Right.
but I could retain massive
Mhm.
amounts of information if I hear it one time.
Right.
Um, and so I would first step is figure out how you learn best, and then make sure you consume information in a way you will retain it. And then once you understand how you're wired, then build systems and processes around where you're best suited to learn. Like again, like my wife, on the other hand, hates Audible and has to read it. And so she actually like time blocks to read and highlight and write in the margin, right? Like we all have effective learning styles of retaining information.
Mhm.
And again, it's all free now. Like you can literally go consume anything you want from YouTube.
Right.
And for me, reading or looking up a recipe and instruction doesn't work. Right? Like I was literally trying to troubleshoot this Samsung Odyssey 49 beautiful monitor I have. And I was on the Samsung website and then I flipped over to YouTube and I was like, put in the exact problem. And I literally fixed it in 3 minutes because I was like,
Right.
pause.
Yep.
Then I did it,
Yep.
right? So figure out the median. And then the next thing I would say is also figure out like where you're at. And I will share that in 2008, 2009, I was in a dark, dark place mentally because I lost everything and was rebuilding. And I literally had to listen to Tony Robbins' The Secret, Eckhart Tolle, or anything,
Mhm.
my voice wouldn't take over. Because if I did, I would go into a dark place and not get anything done and just should on myself. I should have done that. I should have done this. I should have not done that. I should have not bought this. I shouldn't have borrowed so much money. And I had to be in a place where I had to drown out the voice with something positive to not get into inaction. And then once I was able to get into action and control my activity, because human beings cannot control the results, they can control their activity, right? And so if you control your activity for X amount of time and then X amount of days, you get the results you want, which then change the internal voice. But you almost have to have something in place to control that small piece of time to get you to, and again, when everything's great, personal business, the people you're surrounded with, you're having large conversations, it's easy. But like, it's just like, going to a gym or changing your diet. It's like the first 30 days, the first 90 days to change the behavior and the pattern. Like, I don't drink soda. I barely watch TV. Like, there's some things that I do that are normal to me, but once upon a time they weren't, right? There was like this 30, 60, 90-day breakage period of habit that you had to shift.
Perfect.
No, yeah, no. And I have well, my final question for you would be, this is kind of taking a little, going not off topic, but where do you see, and in fact, I think I remember this being asked, I can't remember if it was to you or to Glenn in Madrid, in the Madrid event in Spain a few months back, but where do you see the company in 5 years from now?
So right now we're the single largest independent brokerage in the world. I won't give you a timeline. I won't say 5 or 10 or, but by the way, that's a forward-looking statement. I am a public officer of a company, so I'm not answering that question. I am telling you the
Glenn that
next.
answered it. Yeah,
Probably more careful.
right.
My next stop in my mind is we become the single largest brand on the planet.
The
So
brand.
whether it's
Well,
2, 3, 5, 10, however.
Yeah.
And again, so when people compare it, like I actually just spoke to someone way up at one of the GSEs this morning. And I was like, well, then they weren't familiar with our company. They're like, well, I know who Keller Williams, Remax, Coldwell Banker. I said, those are brands. Any one of them, like the largest KW or Remax or fill in the blank franchisee is probably 1,100 agents, 1,500 agents, 2,000 agents.
Right.
Same in Europe, right?
Mhm.
But we're 87,000 agents at one company. That's never been done before.
Right.
I think the next cool benchmark, whether it's KW or Remax, and like globally, they're like 150, 170,000. So in my mind, I'm rounding up to 200,000. So that's the next, again, that's not the destination. That's the next stop in my goal post.
Gotcha. Love it.
Right. Because the destination is past that. So to me, it's like the next stop in
Gotcha. But
in
it's
the
just
ride.
next kind of benchmark, next stop.
And it's a nice round number.
That's it. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it.
Let's achieve that. Yeah, super soon. And I love it because Leo, you guys continue. When I say you guys, you and Glenn continue to put an amazing leadership team together. And when I talk about EXP, I always talk about the amazing leadership we have. And I don't think I ever do it justice because I see you guys just helping out above and beyond and giving so much knowledge. What do you look for in our leaders and our future leaders? Before we wrap up today.
Yeah, so one of the coolest sentences that Glenn's uttered to me since I got here, and he explained to me the model, and he said this was an experiment in distributed leadership, right? So, again, I come from the franchise world, if you will, as an agent and then as a franchisee. And so if you think about it, the franchise model is actually, and again, I think several successful exited founders say, franchising is for companies that can't scale internally, right? Because it's a different form of distributed model. And what Glenn did is he created an aligned partnership, right? I actually oftentimes describe franchisee and franchisor relationships as an adversarial, frictionful experience because the franchisor makes money off the franchisee, and it's typically top line, meaning rev share, and then they're left with whatever to then turn a profit. It's kind of on them. And so, the parent co could be profitable and the 20 field franchises could be unprofitable. And that creates a lot of tension. And then there's mandatory like consumption of product, right? Whether it's, fast food and it's the straws and the cups and the patties. In our world, it could be, number of events, coaching products, signups, required tech, right? Versus what Glenn did with revenue share is he created a partnership, a true aligned partnership where $1 comes in, 50 goes to here, 50% goes there. And with the shares, he created a true ownership model. And so what I think is really cool is it sparks leadership, full circle to the conversation, and folks that may have not experienced it. And the difference is you don't have to have 300 grand liquid in a checking account and sign a 12-year agreement and then sign a 10,000 square foot lease for 5 to 10 years. Right? Like you can kind of dip your toe, say, hey, I'm going to go down this roadmap. And if I attract 2 or 3 or 4 people, by the way, if you get 2 or 3 people, you're now leading. You're leading somebody, right? And that could become 10,000, or it could be 200 or 500, and you kind of have the ability to choose that. And to me, the model itself creates the platform and the opportunity. And I often describe the company as a platform that allows real estate entrepreneurs to build whatever size dream they want. And it's very specific choice of words because I'm hyper with it. Like 70% of our agents are solo agents who sell 5 to 10 homes a year. And that's cool. That's perfectly okay. I want to be the operating system that allows them to get paid the fastest, answer the broker questions the fastest, has the least amount of friction. And I actually say the game of capitalism is to remove friction from an experience or product. And so that allows you to sell 10 homes, or you can be Justin Haver in Canada doing 1,100 deals, or Avery Call in the US doing 956 deals a year. Or you could have 0 people in your rev share group, or you could be, one of our top attractors in the US or abroad. And by the way, that is a business. Like those people have staff and they have event coordination and they have event companies, and like to succeed at the highest level of anything, it's very serious. It's very different than, hey, I'm gonna do this. And there's levels to the choice of effort and return you get for it. And I feel that's part of like your leadership journey as well.
That's it. And I just want to say before we finish up, me as I have, less than 20 in my rev share organization at the moment. We're very good, and I'm extremely happy with everyone that's on it. And as one of those smaller agents that you spoke about before, I can see all of that. I feel all of that within EXP, and I'm in Spain, so it's 100% transparency. Everything is quick. Everything is super easy. And I am just one of those smaller agents. And I know that the bigger agents also feel the same thing too. And that's probably one of my favorite things ever about this company, is that what you say is going to happen because it's been advised maybe through the agents because they wanted to get better at this. They want this to be a little bit better. We're heard and it's implemented and we can see it. So I'm going to finish up with that. Thank you so much, Leo. Jason?
I love that. I by the way, I love hearing the feedback that what is our
I'm
intent
sure
actually is executed in the field. But by the way, like if it's not, tell me, right?
Right, that's it. That's it. And we would, because we know that we're heard. We have a voice.
And how hard was it to get me on here, right? It's a flat organization. You message me, and it's a matter of when, not if. But
Exactly.
when is a much better word than if in these scenarios.
Yeah. And I always talk about the support when people talk about EXP and support. It's like this. Hey, we got the CEO to talk to us. I've messaged Glenn and he chats back, so it's stuff like that. The support is there and it's phenomenal. I laughed that, we were able to get you on and it was super easy. And it was that matter of, hey, when? Let's match our schedules. We got this. No problem. So
sometimes
Leo,
it's 2, 3, 4 weeks out, but other than that, it's just a matter of when.
hey, we are super grateful to have you here today, and thank you for your time to help us and to help all of our viewers to enlighten them and make them a better agent out there as well. Thank you, Leo, very much.
Appreciate you guys. All right.
Hey, everybody else, if you guys love Leo's conversation here today, if you're watching us on social media, make sure you comment down below. We'd love to hear your favorite segment of today's interview. And Leo, continue leading the way. We love your leadership. Keep it up. And every time I'm watching you everywhere, I'm applauding you, man, because I just love your brain and your energy. Keep bringing it, my man.
Thank you, gents. Appreciate it. Bye.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you, Ian. Hey, real fast, before we leave, Leo, can we sing happy birthday to Ian?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to
To
you.
you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ian. Happy birthday to you.
you.
Thank you, guys. It's not every day that happens, so cheers. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Many more,
Bye.
Ian. Thank you, Leo.